discuss Indo-French ties, joining us in the studio are Dr. Sreeram Chaulia, Dean of the Jindal School for International Affairs. Thanks very much for being with us. What's driving the Indo-French relationship currently? Because, you know, it's been a strategic partnership for 15 years, and it's really only after 2008 that it's really got some momentum.
Well, one thing from the French side is clear. They have gone through a serious economic crisis since the crash of 2008. And there is a concerted effort and a push to find new markets where their major companies can invest as well as trade. So it's clear that that is one issue that's giving a push to this strategic partnership that's been around for a while. And the other thing, of course, I suppose, is France and some of the other European countries are also negotiating their own way through a world that is transforming rather fast, where some of the emerging economies like India are becoming probably far more important than they themselves in the long run. And therefore, it's an effort to also reach out and to build alliance type of relationships that are tight and which produce mutual benefits. So it's obvious these are the two main trends I can see that are giving a push towards it. From our side, it's obvious that we have ridden out of the US-led sanctions regime from the non-proliferation Ayatollahs, and thanks to France. France was a steadfast supporter of us all through and was opposed to these sanctions because they have a strong nuclear industry and a nuclear commerce motive. And so all these factors make us, there's hardly any conflict of interest between the two countries. And that is obvious, that's one reason why we're getting along, and we're trying to even iron out some of the creases and make it move even faster.
Well, Dr. Chaulia, before the break we were talking about defense cooperation, and now it's really moved, there's a shift now in defense trade. It's moving from defense trade to co-development and co-production. And largely because, as Pramod Chaudhary was saying, that, we look like we are the largest buyer in the world.
Yeah,
so do you think that we have the capability, first of all, to be a co-producer?
Well, technically, for example, Hindustan Aeronautics, there is a complaint from the French side that it's not up to the mark to be able to co-produce certain things. So, but there are some private sector initiatives that seem to be interesting, small-scale ones with companies in Hyderabad, with European aerospace companies and defense companies. So, I think we have at some levels some capabilities. But the larger question, as you say, is moving away from the vendor-purchaser model to a one where our own indigenous capacities are built. Our defense sector definitely needs to indigenize, because at the end of the day, we should be spending our foreign exchange reserves in better ways than just procuring arms, which would rather we want to be self-sufficient. But these offsets and all these clauses that we therefore impose tend to be drags on negotiations. But I think France will understand that we value certain partners like Russia and France more, because they are more open to technology transfer. There are some of these partners who are very secretive about their copyrights and trademarks, and who are also looking at continuing to sell to us while we want to jointly produce. So I think the BrahMos and this the new deal that the Prime Minister announced today, these are good initiatives, because they tend to give a sense that we are also getting our part of the bargain. And at the end of the day, it's a hard bargaining. The French need us as a market, but we don't want to be a market forever.
Indian companies have been investing in France. Let's say what there is in the pharmaceutical space, there was Ranbaxy and Wockhardt. Then software, there is Tata Consultancy Services, Infosys and Wipro. In wine, there is Kingfisher. In steel, there is Tata, as you did mention. In plastics, there's Syntex, the railway wagons, there's aerospace as well. So there is an interest in the French industry.
Sure, France is the heart of Europe.
It may not be too much, because the entire amount of investment is only about $1 billion.
Yeah, but the motivation from our side, our corporate side, is clear. France is the heart of Europe. De Gaulle once said famously, if Europe was a coach, the horses would be Germany, and the coachman is France. And France is supposed to be, the ideological leader of the European Union. And having a foothold there will help us to also access other markets within the common European market. So, and now with the EU free trade agreement being discussed, I think more potential opportunities will open up for cross-border movement. So Belgium and France would be pretty much the same in terms of movement of our investment and goods once the free trade agreement is signed with the entire EU. So France is going to be the leader for this, a driving factor, and therefore we'll continue to cultivate them. Corporates, always also think about return on investment, and it's a competitive field. There are many countries wooing Indian capital and, let's say, more broadly, emerging economy capital. And we will obviously offer the best regulatory environment. The fact that France most recently has elected a socialist regime, and where there is also an attempt to pare down their deficits, mean that it's a hard environment for our companies, but we'll try to make the best out of it.
Right. Dr. Chaulia, what about the issues with, what are the hurdles in this relationship? Would you think that the problems in Jaitapur, for instance, is one of the hurdles?
Yeah, probably, because Areva, it's the core of the French economy. The French economy itself is based on, to a great extent, the energy sector is entirely nuclear dominated. So they, I think, put a huge premium on this factor. And it's probably as important, if not more, than the defense deals. So the civilian nuclear factor. Apart from that, I would say, there are good signs. For example, even recently when France intervened militarily in Mali, they had kept India in loop. And India is now part of the support group formed by the African Union, and is also committing some financial aid, both to the military and, more importantly, for democratic change in Mali. So France, the moment they leave, we are there to also support the African Union and the regional ECOWAS and all these formations. So there seems to be, even at the geopolitical level, at the global level, some degree of coordination with France. India has not condemned the French intervention in Mali, because we had our own concerns about Islamic fundamentalism there and its spread.
And they're also using the Rafale planes.
Yes, of course, and they have tested them there, so surely they have some. But of course, the opposition is just a bunch of ragtag people with no surface-to-air missiles in Mali. But anyway, the point is that there are scenes of convergence, I see, and not very much divergence. France has always been our strong ally for expansion into the Security Council and into all these technology-controlled regimes.
Let's look at some of the other issues, the social issues. This issue of the turban, it was banned way back in 2004, and where India is still fighting. I mean, there are cases going on in various courts, and it was raised apparently, and the talk is that dialogue is still going on. I mean, at whatever levels. So, would you be satisfied with an answer like that?
I think it's a footnote. I think we should ignore it. Simply because, France has its own notions of national identity, and India, I think, we have our preferences. We do advocate sometimes for people of Indian origin and our NRIs overseas. But I think, that's, I wouldn't see that really as either as an irritant or as an obstacle. But rather, it's a constructive dialogue. They should understand our concerns. Always multicultural societies, we have issues.
So there were lots of, there were a lot of MOUs that have been signed, and there's another MOU that was signed today. I mean, one of the agreements is in education.
And, the universities, given that the French are now realizing that English is the lingua franca now, unbeatable, as they adapt, I think India, France educational cooperation is going to expand.
Higher education.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us here on Late Edition.